Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. With just a week left for the budget, we ask, what is it that industrialists, economists and editors believe would make the best budget? If the finance minister is watching, he could pick up a lot of useful tips in part 2. But first, a shocking story that shames our politicians and diminishes our democracy. Yesterday, a Trinamool MP threatened to have his opponent's wives raped. Today, a Trinamool leader has called for outsiders entering a village to be beheaded or sacrificed, as he called it. Whilst this has created outrage in the country, Mamata Banerjee, right until this very evening, was defiantly silent. So tonight we ask, how long do we have to put up with such abominable behaviour? And joining me now to talk about the behaviour of Trinamool MPs is the well-known Magsaysay Award winner Karan Thapar, CPM politician Nirotpal Basu, columnist and commentator Aarti Jerat, and the former political editor of the Times of India, Shikha Mukherjee. Sadly, absolutely no one from the Trinamool Congress was prepared to join us this evening. And even though I personally spoke to Derek O'Brien, the chief spokesperson, he declined to join us, although he has been present on other channels this evening. Clearly, the Trinamool chooses which channels it wants to be on and which it decides it's going to boycott. Karan Thapar, I'm going to begin by repeating what Trinamool MP Tapas Pal said on that video which was broadcast yesterday by 2 Bengali channels. If anyone from the opposition dares touch a daughter of Trinamool, a father from Trinamool, a child from Trinamool, I will set my boys on them, they will rape them, they will rape them. Can there be any justification for this sort of threat?
None at all. In fact, if the police had not surrendered its professionalism, this member of parliament should have been behind the bars. Unfortunately, this is the tragedy. This is a suo motu case of abetment of crime. It's a clear call for crime, of taking law into your own hands. Forget about Mamata Banerjee suspending him or putting him out of the party. The police is a silent spectator when it has excellent evidence. I would be not surprised if if any court has the courage to take suo motu cognizance of this case and ask the police to investigate and prosecute.
Nirotpal Basu, your party is now the opposition party. It was in fact your party's workers that in a sense were being threatened by Mr. Pal. Are you going to push both inside and outside the assembly for the police to take action? As Mrs. Bedi has made it clear, this is a suo motu case where clearly action on the grounds of threatening and intimidating can be and should be taken. Will you press for it?
Absolutely. We will stop at nothing to really bring the culprit to the book, because there are several provisions of the law according to which he has committed a crime. And the saddest part of this, that the Trinamool Congress and its Supremo, who otherwise take so moralistic position, has been dealing this issue as an intra-party affair. But she is forgetting that she is chief minister and she is supposed to be the custodian of the law of the land. But there is no police action, there is no police cognizance.
Can I interrupt? Given that
activists already have started filing FIRs in all police stations.
That's precisely the point I want to ask. Given that this was a threat against your party workers, will your party itself take that step of filing FIRs and demanding action? Will you take that step yourself?
Yeah. We have already started doing that. In every police station of the state, FIRs will be lodged and police will have to take cognizance of that. And I think in some cases already the Calcutta High Court is taking cognizance. And I must also hasten to add, Karan, that there may be a sense of surprise in rest of the country, but here in West Bengal we are used to it, because number of leaders of the TMC, MLAs, they have been
I take your point. Let's keep the focus on Tapas Pal before we broaden it.
Actual murders have taken place and there has been all attempts
Mr. Basu, let's keep the focus for now on
Tapas
Pal. I'll broaden it to the TMC as a whole in a moment's time, but let's first focus on Tapas Pal, because what he has said is so astonishing and outrageous. Aarti Jerat, should the Lok Sabha Ethics Committee, or maybe it's the Privileges Committee, step in and take action against the Paspal on the grounds that he's brought Parliament itself as a whole into disrepute?
Oh, absolutely.
And clearly they need to ensure other MPs don't do this again.
No, absolutely, Karan. You know, the police will do whatever it has to do or should have done and so on. But as we know in this country, the law takes a long time to take its course. But there are several things that can be done immediately. One is, I think, there is an onus on Mamata Banerjee to act as leader of the Trinamool Congress. And you know, it's about time she did, because her MPs have been making atrocious remarks, sort of on women, rape and so on for some years now. And so far she's not taken action against anybody. And certainly I think Parliament is perfectly within its rights to take up this issue. I don't think it needs a complaint. I don't know what the rules are, but I think Parliament suo motu should take it up. And you know, the Trinamool Congress has a huge contingent of women MPs. I mean, I think they should be up in arms against this kind of a comment. I'm surprised that nobody has come out to condemn him yet.
Shikha Mukherjee, let's focus on how the Trinamool Congress as a party and Mamata Banerjee particularly as party leader and a woman have responded to what the Paspal said. Until literally this evening, for the first 24 or 36 hours, Mamata Banerjee was defiantly silent. In fact, on television, she even refused to make any comment, saying Mukul Roy, the party general secretary, would speak on behalf of the party. Then this evening, in a brief soundbite, she said that she wants the Paspal to apologize in public, but she also then added, "What more do you want me to do? Kill him." Do you think that's an adequate response from a woman chief minister and party leader?
No, it isn't. And very clearly, Mamata Banerjee is saying, has used the "do you want me to kill him" as a kind of preemptive shut-out bid, shut up kind of comment, in order to prevent this thing from spiraling any further. The fact of the matter remains that whatever Parliament, whether Parliament takes a suo motu action or there is a complaint or the FIRs are filed by the CPM, it is Mamata Banerjee's government and she as the Home Minister who has to get the police to act. Will her government in fact act against complaints against Tapushpal? And if it does, then she will be opening the floodgates for a series of complaints against other MPs, other MLAs who have threatened similar kind of violence. May not be rape, but certainly they have threatened the opposition and the police. I think Kiran Bedi should pay attention to this, which is that they have threatened the police with bombings and saying that if the police interferes with what you're doing, then bomb them. This is the kind of administration that we have in West Bengal at the moment. I think it is much more than just the story of the Trinamool. It is, as you started by saying, the story of India's democracy, which is trapped in the hands of people who have no sense of what this politics is all about.
Absolutely. Let me, Kiran Bedi, come back to the Paspal, because he is in fact the reason why we're doing the show today. It wasn't just rape that he threatened, that was extremely bad and outrageous, but he also threatened to shoot CPM workers with his revolver. And the response that we had altogether was in fact an initial tweet from Derek O'Brien, where he said statements made by Mr. Paspal are very insensitive. We don't in any way endorse what he said. And thereafter, the party gave him 48 hours to come up with a written explanation, and finally they demanded an unconditional apology, which he sent them. But do you think the party's response as a whole is an adequate response? Or do you think the party as a whole is actually trying to minimize what has happened and refuses to accept the gravity of what this MP has said?
Yes, the party has attempted to make it appear it's an internal affair. It's not an internal affair. A crime has been committed against a state. It's a clear case of abetment of crime. Therefore, crime must be registered. It's not an internal affair of the party anymore. It's a cognizable crime committed against a state, and it cannot be pardoned by the party. The party may pardon it, but the state cannot. Therefore, the police must take suo motu, even if they felt threatened in the past. They must take, it's their duty to log this as a crime committed and take legal action. Otherwise, they can be strictured against, they can be censured by the higher authorities. It is the police which is running away from its duty. Not only the Chief Minister as a Home Minister or as a party leader, but I would say DGP of the state is also running away from doing the duty.
A moment ago, you would have heard Nirotpal Basu say that the CPM will be filing FIRs in every police station in Bengal. Assuming that is actually happening as we talk, what would be the next response expected from the police?
Police has no choice but to register, and if the police doesn't do that, let them go straight to the court and ask the police to come from the court to the police to take cognizance of these and investigations. But the investigations will not be independent if it's left to the West Bengal police. You may have to take it away. You may again have to take it away. But the problem is that's in confrontation with the central government. Because take it away for whom? A special investigation team of West Bengal police? It doesn't matter. So this is where the problem is. When policing is a state subject. You can't even pass it on to CBI because that cannot be without the permission of the state. So therefore you go back to Jungle Raj, where the police is under you, it's abnegating its professional responsibility. And so is the state home minister, but it's not a pardonable offence, it's not an internal affair.
Meanwhile, Nirotpal Basu, the Home Ministry in Delhi has demanded an explanation from the government in Calcutta. What would you expect the Modi government to do in this instance?
You see, as you know, our position is very clear that we are opposed to the imposition of 356. We think ultimately the people will rise and do away with this draconian regime. Our point is very, very clear. Number of cases right now have been decided either by the High Court where cases of crimes have been referred to the CBI by the courts in spite of the best efforts of the state government to dilate, and there are also number of cases which are coming up.
But that's a different issue. Answer my specific question. What do you expect the Modi government to do? They've demanded an explanation. If they don't get an explanation that they think is satisfactory, what do you want Mr. Modi to do? Answer that specifically.
We think that the Modi government's role is very limited because this is a law and order question, and I completely endorse Shikhadi's point of view that it is a battle of democracy that the people of the state will have to fight out. There is no other go, and therefore we are pretty confident that people will not tolerate this, and such things have been happening so frequently.
Quite right,
and it is only a culmination of that long and tortuous process that people are going through.
All right, Mr. Basu, you're looking down the road to what the people will do when they have a next opportunity to vote and pass judgment on the government, but that may be not for another 3 years at least. Let's look at the more immediate future, and I want to begin by putting to you the so-called defense that Mr. Pal has himself offered, because it's only fair, if you are criticizing him, that we should also look at his defense. Speaking to the Indian Express today, he's apparently said, when you see a pregnant mother tortured or a man's hands chopped off, you cannot control your anger. I just became mad. Does that excuse his behavior?
No, absolutely not. And you know, Karan, I'm not sure I completely agree with the tone and tenor of the debate so far, where everybody's talking about police action and law and order and registering cases and arresting and so on. You know, this goes beyond just a law and order thing. There is a kind of political culture that seems to have set in. And I mean, West Bengal, of course, we're seeing it there, but it happened. We saw it in UP during the election campaign. We saw it in Bihar. We saw it, you know, in several other states. You know, people making absolutely rabid speeches, talking about chopping off hands, talking about beheading, talking about killing, talking about throwing people out. I mean, there is a kind of violence that has crept into the political culture, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed, and I don't think it can be addressed simply by filing FIRs across the state. And, no, you know, so it needs,
I'll come to the wider question of how you address it, but do you think this sort of outburst can be excused or explained away on the grounds that it was provoked by what he calls pregnant mothers being tortured or man's hands being chopped off?
No, obviously not. It's the same excuse that the BJP, you know, or the sort of the Sangh rioters in Gujarat used to justify the communal violence there, saying that, you know, since people were killed in Godhra, in retaliation they went and, you know, went out and did a pogrom against Muslims. I mean, violence does not justify violence.
Shikha Mukherjee, let me put something else to you. One of the strange, disturbing aspects of the video on which Mr. Thapar is seen making these terrible threats to rape, to destroy families, to shoot and kill with his own revolver, is that people start applauding him when he says these things. Could it be, as perhaps Mr. Pal will argue, that in different contexts these statements take on a different connotation? And what we see and what we hear is not what was intended and what was understood when he said it. Could that at all be the case?
I don't think so. I frankly don't believe that to be true, for the simple reason that this is a kind of explanation or justification that some members of the Trinamool Congress were quick to trot out yesterday when the story initially broke. A lawyer from the Trinamool camp, who's also a member of parliament, said this was a kind of spontaneous outburst provoked by circumstances. Now that doesn't really wash, in the sense that there are too many people from the Trinamool who have used this language of violence. As I said, bomb the police, chop off people's hands, kill the opposition, wipe them out. That kind of threat has been used randomly by a large number of Trinamool politicians in West Bengal in the run-up to the elections, in the run-up to the panchayat elections, and otherwise. It is, as Aarti said, a culture of political violence which seems to have overtaken the political discourse. That is what the political discourse is today, of an eye for an eye. If the opposition dares to raise its head, then chop their heads off. That is what is going on. The fact that, you know, it's very easy for Nilotpal to say that the judiciary, we will go to the police, we will file an FIR. The fact of the matter remains that there are people from within the Trinamool who have now actually moved on to the BJP very recently, who've had to go up to the Supreme Court in order to get their cases moving, in order for the investigation by police to take the correct procedures. I mean, this is outrageous what is happening in West Bengal.
Kiran Bedi, let me bring you in that point, because I want to put to you the issue that in a sense both Shikha Mukherjee and Aarti Jerat are actually widening our discussion quite correctly towards. You know, it's not just Thapar who outraged the country yesterday. Today, one of his colleagues, Arup Chakraborty, the Bankura district president of the Trinamool Congress, has said that outsiders entering a village should be, as he said, sacrificed or beheaded. Last year, Kalyan Bandyopadhyay, one of their MPs, threatened to make the hands of CPM cadres and shave the head of Biman Bose and CPM opposition leader Suryakant Mishra. A year before that, Manirul Islam, a Trinamool MLA, was accused of killing 3 youths. Is there a wider problem with the Trinamool itself? Is there a wider problem with Bengali politics where this sort of language seems to be accepted by voters who don't go against the speakers? Do we have a deeper problem that perhaps is difficult to identify?
What I would say, Karan, is that when does culture of violence thrive? In which circumstances does the culture of violence run riot? When there's no rule of law and there's a rule of jungle. At the moment, there is no rule of law. The rule of law is absolutely subjugated and enslaved and snuffed at the moment. Therefore, you have to restore rule of law. And how do you restore a rule of law? By criminal justice system. And it begins with the police and prosecution. But if both are enslaved, where do you begin? You still have the courts. I would say, let the civil society petition the High Court, the Calcutta High Court, and ask for a special investigation team headed by maybe a retired judge, an independent retired judge, and let all these complaints go before the retired judge. All these FIRs get clubbed. You have to restore rule of law if you want to stem the culture of violence. Therefore, Till you do that, it begins with the police. You can't just avoid it. You just can't talk about culture of violence minus the police. You have to bring back the police. Therefore, special investigation team by the High Court, I think by the civil society, and encouraging people to complain of all the past complaints by TMC is the way forward.
You know, understandably, as a former police woman, Kiran Bedi will stress the role of the police, and many would agree with her.
Sure.
But there is another aspect. We're talking about individuals and their upbringing, their attitudes and the way they respond. Why is it that men use rape either as a threat or as a way of judging how difficult something is? I mean, the other day, Manohar Parrikar, the Chief Minister of Goa, said that getting permission for some industrial projects was more difficult than being raped. I mean, how can a Chief Minister, after what happened in India in December 2012, talk about rape in this flippant, jocular fashion?
No, absolutely. And before that, we had a man who was aspiring to be Prime Minister, if you remember, Mulayam Singh Yadav, saying boys will be boys. I mean, what else will they do but rape? And this is what is so disturbing, that, you know, after the gang rape in Delhi and the amendments to the anti-rape law, you know, we women thought we had achieved a major milestone. And this would actually start the process of reforming the mindset in India.
It hasn't happened.
It hasn't. Firstly, I think, well, I don't know whether the increase in the number of rapes is simply because women now have the courage to go out and report them, and that's why you're seeing a rise in the number of rape cases. But the way men are starting to use rape as a metaphor in their speeches, I mean, it's really, it's outrageous. And you know, I think really, Karan, you know, there is a special law called Prevention of Atrocities Against Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes. I think we need to have a special law for women like that.
But you're you're going back then to the police and to the law.
No, but this would, because this law can be, you know, you can go to the court on this, but at least, I mean, we should take women out as a special category so that people can stop insulting us as a group. You know, and use the term rape so flippantly.
But you know, Lokpal Basu, the surprising thing is communist MPs, communist politicians are not immune from this jocular. After all, it was one of your MLAs, Anisur Rahman, who last year said, how much would Mamata Banerjee want as compensation if she were raped? Do you accept that there is really in Indian men a problem about their attitude to rape? They simply don't seem to understand the trauma and the humiliation it imposes on a woman. They simply see it as another form of physical attack.
You see, being the only male member in your panel, I completely share the sense of outrage and this expression against patriarchy in our political process. I know it was very unfortunate that Anisur Rahman made that comment, and he was squarely taken and nobody appreciated, and it was most insensitive. I mean, in the most uncertain terms, no uncertain terms, he was condemned. Okay. But you see, there is the difference of attitude. And I will just make only two small points.
Very quickly.
I agree with Aarti that it is not merely a law and order problem. It's many dimensional, social, political, cultural, and of course that of the cultural category, this gender question is so very important.
Point?
But at the same time, law and order is also important. But I must remind Kiran Bedi ji that the complicity and the capitulation of the police is so total with Trinamool Congress under the protective shield of the state government right up to the level of the Chief Minister. It's very difficult. Therefore, I think the judiciary has to come in, the civil society has to come in, and it has to be really across the board effort that some of the very, very sad things that are happening, they can be rolled back. They can
we're going to have to leave it there. All I'll point out that people hearing you will say, something very similar used to be said when the CPM was in power about the attitude of the police as well. Unfortunately, some things never seem to change, and that's the sad truth.
Don't be complicit.
I'm not being complicit at all. I'm not being complacent either. I'm simply being truthful. But my thanks to all four of my guests for joining me.